Yes, guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson Football Channel for your second video on this fine international break Tuesday. If you didn't see the player ratings video from earlier on today, I will leave a link to that in the description and I'll stick it as a card either here or there somewhere on the screen where I go into a bit more detail about Chelsea 4, Manchester City 4. In this video today, I'm going to reference Obi Mikel, a man who we're all going to absolutely love forever for his role in Chelsea's Champions League win and just generally being a good geezer, being one of those underrated Chelsea players who over the years delivered us so much, not necessarily goals, but he is now acting as an agent for Chelsea Football Club to bring in, you guessed it, none other than Nigerian striker Victor Osimhen. I want to talk a little bit about these comments because when Victor Osimhen is interviewed by Obi Mikel, there is a very interesting conversation that is had here. And Obi Mikel is absolutely leaving no stone unturned as to where he wants his friend Victor Osimhen to end up next season. For context, it's looking very, very much likely that Victor Osimhen is going to be leaving Napoli at the end of this season. Chelsea are reportedly interested in even bringing in a striker in January, but with the level of striker that we're talking about here, we're talking about elite level players. That is what we have been known to believe over the course of the last few weeks when the conversation has been coming out about, are Chelsea going to be able to fully rely on Jackson right now to get us where we want to be? Don't think there's any doubts in anybody's mind that Jackson has the ability, but do we still need an elite level number 9? So Obi Mikel, during his interview with Osimhen, next season, I know you are going to come to Chelsea, man. I'm telling you, I'm going to be the agent to broker that deal. I'm going to make sure that happens. We are crying out for someone like you since Drogba left the club. There are a few things here that absolutely need to be addressed. First of all, it is a bold statement for Obi Mikel to say something like this, but when you just start a new podcast, there are two ways he could be going about this. He either knows something from Victor Osimhen that maybe, just maybe, there is a move to Chelsea that's actually firmly on the cards, but as well as that, there also could be a sense of, right, I've got a new podcast coming out, let me just really endear myself to the Chelsea fans who would love to see you at the club. And then he's obviously saying all of the right things to make Chelsea fans watch his podcast. However, I'm looking at this one and I'm looking even deeper than this here because Victor Osimhen has also had something to say, which does actually get me very excited that this could actually happen. I don't have a favourite Premier League team, but I have two jerseys, Chelsea and Man United. Many friends of mine are Chelsea fans, few are Man United fans. Premier League is the most appreciated league by every African player. It's a huge league. Now, if this isn't an invitation to every Premier League club to say, right, Victor Osimhen likes the Premier League, we want Victor Osimhen, we want a top striker, then I don't know what is. But I think it's just like many friends of mine are Chelsea fans, very few are Man United fans. Seems to me, if we're reading between the lines here, like a slightly unnecessary comment because like it doesn't really matter how many of your friends support. Like I've got two friends who are Tottenham fans, all right? That's enough. But still, it's like, whatever. Anyway, let me just get away from having to drop a Tottenham Hotspur comment in there. I just think that it's inevitable that Victor Osimhen ends up in the Premier League. Man United are obviously a club who signed Rasmus Højlund last summer. Maybe they're not entirely happy. He's not scored a Premier League goal yet. He's the top scorer in the Champions League this season with 5 after that little void was left by Messi and Ronaldo to have somebody new taking over that mantle. But I just think here, right, for Chelsea Football Club, we have been interested in Victor Osimhen for quite some time. There have been various rumours recently, like we've said, about Chelsea wanting to sign that elite level striker. And I do think that there is absolutely something here that Chelsea can look at when we're talking about signing a new striker. When players like Osimhen make it so clear that he wants to play in the Premier League, Victor Osimhen, as an African striker, Nigerian striker, he wants to make that big move. He wants to be playing in the best league in the world. And for an African player, this is the pinnacle. This is where they want to be. He's obviously not going to stay at Napoli forever. He says, of course, I want to stay in Europe. I put everything in God's hands. This basically confirms that he's leaving. So for Chelsea, this opens the door here. I know this is only the comments on a John Obi Mikel podcast, not to like belittle it or make it so big. I'm making this video on it, so maybe I'm already over expanding on it too much. But I absolutely think here that this is set up for Chelsea. And I want to know what you guys have to say about this in the comments down below. When you look at the numbers, which a lot of people have already done, they're saying, well, Victor Osimhen's not scored that many goals this season. Nicholas Jackson already has 6 goals in the Premier League. He knocks Brighton out of the Carabao Cup. The man's scoring. But overall, I think we need to be honest here about the levels right now between Victor Osimhen and Nicholas Jackson. I don't for one second believe that it's impossible that Nicholas Jackson can get to a Victor Osimhen level that we saw so prevalent last season for Napoli. Brilliant in the Champions League. Amazing to win the Scudetto in Italy. Napoli absolutely thrived last season because of the goals of Victor Osimhen. All different types of goals. Headers, right foot, left foot. The man's absolutely got it all. And I do think that when you give the empowerment to a player like a Victor Osimhen to come and be the main man at a club like Chelsea, when you hear him speak, when you think about the attitude of the player, I absolutely believe that it won't be another case of, well, Chelsea bring in another high-profile, big-name striker, and he flops. I absolutely think with Maurizio Pochettino and all of the players around him right now, Chelsea are a team that are inevitably on the up. That's not just me saying that from the recent results against Spurs and Manchester City. There's clearly a vision in place here from the club. The players that have been bought in, as much as we've said, we've bought in too many young players. Now that everyone's kind of starting to come good, starting to tick over, with the great manager, Maurizio Pochettino, slowly implementing tactical nuance to get the best out of these players, I absolutely believe that Chelsea will be a brilliant destination for Victor Osimhen. I would love to know what you guys think about this in the comments down below. There's also some updates regarding Toney. And when you think about the prices that we're about to mention here, then Victor Osimhen, even though he's going to be stupidly expensive, if Toney is going to cost anywhere between 80 and 100 million, Court Offside understands that there is a realistic expectation at Brentford that they might get closer to 55 million. I've just got a funny feeling that the Toney negotiations may end up being something that Arsenal are trying to pounce on come January. And I think with Chelsea, with Christopher Nkunku coming back, with Nicholas Jackson currently scoring goals, I'm actually questioning right now what Chelsea's approach is going to be, because I do think Toney would be a great signing for Chelsea, and it is definitely doable. But with Toney already expressing in the Stephen Bartlett podcast that he'd love maybe a move to Liverpool or Arsenal, then maybe Chelsea are just a bit like, well, we could just let Toney go to Arsenal, and then Victor Osimhen is expressing his desire to move to the Premier League. He's flirting quite evidently here with Chelsea. As a fan, the way that the club is going right now, you can see players out there on the field that want to play for Chelsea. So when I'm hearing these comments, Victor Osimhen, we've seen him with a Chelsea shirt before. It's not brand new news, this one. But the fact that he's already saying, more of my friends are Chelsea fans and Man United, I'm just sitting here thinking, this can bloody happen. And maybe, as a result of Nicholas Jackson's turn up in form, Christopher Nkunku coming back into the fold, there could definitely be a world here where Chelsea can be patient. We can see what we're going to do for next summer, really eye things up a little bit. And I don't think Brentford will be closing on a 55 million deal in January. So that does mean that if Chelsea were to go for Toney in desperation potentially to sign that striker for the rest of this season, then if we're paying between 80 to 100 million just to get him in the middle of the season, I would say wait until the end of the season, see what's happening with Osimhen at Napoli. The price that we'd have to pay in January is outrageous. And I think maybe there's no real sign that it's 100% needed right now. I think Nkunku's going to score. He's going to come into this team and there's going to be opportunities. And I do think there is a world where Chelsea aren't as desperate as maybe we were over a week ago. Things have changed in a week. We scored 8 goals in 2 matches, but I do still believe we need that striker. Moving in to the final news story of the day. This comes through Fabrizio Romano. Chelsea are focused on different names for the striker position. Santiago Jimenez is not a priority for Chelsea. They know the situation, even though they know he could be available for around 45 million euros in January, but nothing concrete going on. The interesting thing that I feel right now about the striker situation, Santiago Jimenez is a decent striker. I just don't think Chelsea should be looking around at players where there is a lot of questions to be asked about the ceiling of the talent and how long it would take for that ceiling to come through. As well as that, 45 million euros for a man who is biding his trade, in the Eredivisie. I'm thinking, nah. There is a caliber here that we need to be looking at. It is your Serie A top goal scorer, worldwide name, Victor Osimhen. It is serial Premier League goal scorer, Ivan Toney. If you're going for a 22-year-old who plays at Feyenoord, then I think you're kind of inviting the same pressure as a Nicholas Jackson. Yeah, maybe they can share that pressure of scoring a goal, but I think the way that Chelsea are going right now, the ambition should be, if we are indeed to buy a striker, buy a top one, someone that can allow Jackson to not have this pressure of having to be an out-and-out goal scorer week in, week out right now. Currently, he's managing it well. He's been under pressure. He's got 6 Premier League goals. It's a very good return. But I still think if Chelsea are in the market for players, a top striker is the one, not another 22-year-old coming from an easy league who we have to hope can fit into the massive step between Eredivisie and the Premier League. So, let me know your thoughts on Santiago Jimenez in the comments down below, the Argentinian young striker. As well as that, let me know your thoughts on the Victor Osimhen comments on the John Obi Mikel podcast. And also Ivan Toney, who's raised his head in today's video once again. Check out the earlier video from today. Stay tuned for a brand new podcast episode tomorrow, and I'll see you guys there.